Right, so last lesson we already chatted and we realized that a trig equation, and this is a trig equation, actually has two solutions. I explained why that happens. I'm not going to repeat it again because we don't actually need to know why. It's more about how to find both solutions. This is what today's lesson is about, is how to find both solutions. So let's start by just remembering how to find at least the first solution, okay? So how would I find theta? This is not a special angle, so we need to use a calculator. Yes.
Sin to the power of -1 in brackets 0,8.
Okay. All good, apart from the fact that I know that this is not really sin to the power -1. I know it looks like it. It's the inverse sin. It's the inverse sin.
So it's just sin -1.
Yeah. Okay. I know it looks like it's power, but we're not really raising by power. We're just doing the reverse. Okay. Normally we're doing sin of an angle that will give us a ratio. In this case, to find the angle by knowing the ratio, we do this inverse sin of 0,866. So let's find that out. I'll just pause here. Okay. Or maybe somebody can give me the answer.
60.
How much?
60 or 59,99.
So let's do two decimal places. 59,
90. So 1.
So in other words, if you use this,
60.
60. Okay? Okay, 60 degrees. Okay? So now let's just check that out. If I do sin 60, what should I get?
0.87.
Well, you should get the same thing, right? Let's try that.
Yeah, it works.
How much? 0,866. There might be a few other numbers after that. Okay, it has to happen, guys. Okay, because when I do sin of an angle, I get a ratio. If I do this sin inverse of a ratio, I must get back the angle. Okay? But what we already saw last lesson is that really I should have another angle. Okay, I should have another angle. Okay? If this is 60, I should have another angle. Maybe some of you remember, where should the other angle be? Ruano,
In the second quadrant.
In the second quad. And I'm not going to repeat why it's in the second quad. I did explain it yesterday, but it's not a big deal if you didn't get it. Okay? So the next angle is going to be somewhere in the second quad. What is it going to be?
Sin 120.
Yes, but how do you know that?
Like, because sin in the first and the second one is positive.
Yeah.
Which means that it can be anything above.
No, but why 120 and not why 30? You are right. It's 120. What made you say 120?
Because everything in the second quad starts at 90 and goes through to.
Okay, what do you want to say, Leo?
It's hard to explain, but it's 60 degrees on the right side. If you're going to go exact to the same side, it's 120.
You're absolutely right. But I want to show you and explain that. Okay? If this is okay, let's start with 60 with a number. Okay? If this is 60 degrees, right? And this gives me the right thing, okay? What Leo's saying is like, I know I'm looking at the second quarter, so I'm looking 60 from the other side. In other words, this is also must be 60. In other words, what's that supposed to be? If this is 120, how do we do it? We do 180 minus 60, right? So let's go back to original, like just general theta. If this is theta and I want to know the other solution, I'm going to do 180 minus theta. Okay, so the answer is, I'm going to get rid of that. That was just to show you. The first solution is 60. The second solution, we call it second theta, is going to be 180 minus 60, which is 120. So in a test, okay, you're going to give both these answers. I'm going to pause here. Okay, so now we're going to do the similar thing for cosine. So cosine theta is equal to 0,866. How do we find the first solution?
Same as we've been doing.
Yes, so cosine minus 1, 0,866. Somebody needs to punch that in the calculator, please. 30 degrees. Okay? Okay? It's actually a special angle. Okay? Now, what will be the, well, let's put it this way. Which quadrant will be the second one? You can call it out in the fourth. Okay, this is because we learned it last lesson. You don't need to, well, you need to remember, you don't need to understand that. How are we going to find, what kind of formula are we going to have? So if now this is 30.
360 minus theta.
How much?
360 minus theta.
Well done. If I know this is 30, I want to find that one. It's basically 360 minus 30. So the formula I'm going to have is 360 minus theta. Okay? Alright? So the second solution is going to be 360 minus 30, which is 330 degrees. Okay? Alright? Because I knew this is 30, so this must also be 30. And if I want to get this angle, it's 360 minus 30. Okay, I'll pause again, and then we'll do the tan, and then we're done. The last trig function that we know for now, by the way, we will add some more trig function next lesson. Okay, actually maybe even today. Tan theta is equal to what? So, you know, that's actually a special angle, but you can still use a calculator at this point. I won't be too cross. Tan inverse of 1, you should get 45 degrees. Okay, now, again, I'm going to ask you, okay, if tan is positive here, where will it be positive again? Which quadrant will be the next one? The third one. Okay? Now, if this is, again, I'm rubbing it, if this is 45, how would I get to this? I want to get to that angle. 270 minus 45. No. So I want to get that one. So I want to get that one, this angle, because I want to go from here to there. So I've got the 45. What do I need to add to it? Yes?
290.
I can't hear what Peter says. No, say it. Jordan is on fire.
235.
Guys, Jordan is like trig specialist. You're absolutely right. You're adding 180. Look, from here to there, it's a straight line. We added 180. Okay? So if this is theta, this is going to be theta plus 180. Not 180 minus theta, it's theta plus 180. Okay? So the second solution is going to be 180 plus 45. So the second solution is 225 degrees. Okay? I'll leave it here for a minute. Let me let's just pause. I'm just going to summarize what we just discovered here. It's a recipe that I'm giving you. I didn't really explain it. I did last time, but more a recipe. For every trig function, we almost always have two solutions. The first solution, you know how to do it. You just do the sin minus 1 or cosine minus, whatever it is, the trig function you work with, you find a solution. Okay? In grade 10, it's always going to be in the first quadrant. Next year it will be a bit more difficult. So I'm assuming that you find your first angle, we'll call it theta 1. The question now is, what will be the second solution? So we have rules, 3 rules, 1 for each sine, cosine, and time. If your trig function have a sine, your second solution is going to be 180 minus theta 1. It's basically moving from the first quadrant to the second quadrant. So if you found a certain angle, let's say it was 60, your second solution will be 180 minus 60, which will be 120. Okay, so that's rule for sine. For cosine, we realize that there's another rule. Okay, it wasn't 180 minus theta, it was 360 minus theta 1. Why? Because we moved from the first to the fourth quadrant. Okay, for tan, okay, we went from the first to the third quadrant, so it was actually 180 plus theta. Okay, so it's just a rule, a bunch of rules that you need to remember for to find a second solution. Okay, I'll pause here, answer question, and then we must start working.